All right, so this week, we're going to be diving into the news from the Faroe Islands.
Yep, a curated selection of all the news from the last 7 days, from politics to community events and industry updates.
Right, and we'll even see if we have time to touch on some sports highlights.
That's right. We're pulling from a few different prominent Faroes news sources to give you the big picture.
Perfect. So let's start with the political landscape. I've
Yeah.
heard some talk of a potential new coalition government forming.
Yeah, there have been discussions between the Folkeflokkeren and Sambandsflokkeren parties.
Interesting. And do we know what they've said about their potential platforms?
Well, it's still early days. It's too early to say for sure, but we'll see what develops.
Okay, good to know. And there's been quite a bit of controversy around the dismissal of the Kringvarp Faroe director, right?
Yeah, the legality of the dismissal is being challenged.
Oh, wow.
The director's lawyer has publicly stated that they consider the action invalid.
Okay. So we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. And then another big story this week that seems pretty unprecedented in the Faroe Islands is this investigation into potential election fraud.
Right. This is the first time such an accusation has been made.
Wow. So this is...
The police are currently investigating, and the details are still emerging.
Okay, so another one to keep an eye on, for sure. Now let's move on to the proposed work promotion initiatives. There's been some debate surrounding those.
Yeah, there are definitely arguments for and against them. There are differing opinions on their potential impact.
For sure. And I actually noticed that a recent parliamentary session that was supposed to address this was postponed.
It was, yeah.
I wonder what happened there.
Moving on, it seems like there's continued discussion around the Faroes public service fee.
The Kringvarpsgjald, yes.
Right, exactly. And what are some of the criticisms that have been raised around that?
Well, particularly residents in the Suðuroy region. They feel the level of coverage they receive from Kringvarp Faroe doesn't justify their contributions. Okay, so a question of value for their money. Let's shift gears a bit now and move over to community news. Unfortunately, there was a fire at an asphalt storage facility in Jarnir.
Right.
Do we have any updates on the cause or extent of the damage?
Not yet. The investigation is just beginning, and authorities will examine the site once it's safe to do so.
Okay. On a more positive note, we have a really heartwarming story about a large donation of shoeboxes filled with gifts for children.
It was for the Operation Christmas Child initiative.
Ah, okay. And how many were collected this year?
Over 3,500.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, the organizers, described it as an act of love and hope for children facing difficult situations.
For sure. Now let's turn to industry and the economy. It looks like the Faroe Islands and Iceland have finalized their fishing agreement for 2025.
Yes, and they've decided to maintain the same terms as the 2024 agreement.
Okay, so business as usual there. And SEV, the Faroes Power Company, released its financial outlook this week. What did they say?
Well, they're actually anticipating a larger profit than expected.
Oh, wow. That's good news.
It is. And even better, the electricity prices are remaining stable.
Okay, so consumers won't be impacted.
No, they won't.
That's great. Moving on. There's been some news about the fishing industry as well.
Yes, the ownership structures and fishing rights for 2024 have been made public.
Interesting. Okay, so that information is now available for anyone interested in learning more.
Exactly.
And we also have some updates on labor agreements for several key industries.
Right. Agreements have been reached with Faroe Tele, Posta, and Viga Floghaven.
Okay. And can you remind me what Vaga Floghaven is?
That's the Vagar Airport.
Okay, right, of course. And what are the key points of these agreements?
Well, the agreed-upon terms include salary increases of 8.19% for the employees represented by Starfsfélagi.
Okay, so that's the workers' union.
Yes.
Good for them. Yeah. And finally, let's touch on sustainability efforts. There's a new report out examining wind energy and other solutions.
Right. It's all about achieving those sustainability goals in the Faroe Islands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what are the main takeaways from this report?
Well, they suggest that wind energy could play a significant role, although they do say that a diverse approach with other solutions will be necessary to achieve all of the island's sustainability targets.
Okay, so they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Right. A more holistic approach.
Makes sense.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the news from the Faroe Islands.
Ready to jump into some sports now.
Let's do it.
So it looks like we have a Faroes athlete who's aiming to reclaim a world champion title.
Yeah, we're talking about boxer Sarah Mahfood.
Yeah.
She recently won a significant match and is now working towards another shot at the world championship title.
Oh, wow. That's great to hear.
It is, yeah.
Okay. And what about the Faroe Islands national handball team? How'd they do in their recent EHF Euro tournament match?
Well, unfortunately, they lost their final match.
Against?
Denmark.
Okay. Well, you can't win them, Mark.
Exactly. Every competition's a learning experience.
That's right. Now, this is interesting. It says here that a Faroes football player scored the winning goal in a cup final.
He did.
But not in the Faroe Islands.
Right. It was Brander Hendrickson Olsen. He scored the winning goal for his Danish team, Lyngby, in the Danish Cup final.
Wow. That's a huge accomplishment.
It is, yeah.
Good for him. And what about our up-and-coming talent? Any news on the Faroes U17 and U19 women's football teams?
Well, they have their EM qualification matches coming up soon.
Okay, and who are they playing against?
The U17 team will be facing Ireland and Lithuania,
Okay.
and the U19 team is going to be playing against Estonia, Cyprus, and Moldova.
Okay. A lot of tough competition there.
Yes.
Best of luck to them.
Yeah.
Speaking of unpredictable outcomes,
Becky?
how's the weather been this past week? Anything notable?
Well, there have been reports of strong winds causing some damage in Sandavagar, Giljanes, and Mývatn.
Yikes.
And there was actually a scary incident where a man was swept into the sea in Lopra.
Oh, no.
Thankfully, though, he was rescued.
Oh, that's good. It's a good reminder that the weather in the Faroe Islands can be pretty powerful.
It can.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's been another eventful week in the Faroe Islands.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from politics and industry updates to community happenings, and even some sports highlights.
And it looks like we even have time to touch on a few more interesting pieces of news before we wrap up this second part of our deep dive.
Perfect. What else do you have for me? All right, so welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the Faroe Islands news this week.
That's right. We covered a lot in the first two parts.
We did. We talked about politics and industry updates and even some exciting sports moments.
Right. And now we'll wrap things up with a few additional news items and a look at what's happening in the community.
Okay, sounds good. So what's first on the agenda?
Well, first up, we have an update regarding the situation with the Ukrainian refugees currently living in the Faroe Islands.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
What's the latest there?
Their allowed stay has actually been extended.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it gives them a little more stability during uncertain times.
Definitely. And speaking of changes, were there any legal developments this past week?
Yes, there have been some updates to both the adoption laws and the law regarding parental authority in the Faroe Islands.
Oh, interesting. What prompted those changes?
Well, these amendments are intended to streamline the adoption process and also address modern family dynamics.
Okay, so making sure the laws reflect current realities.
Exactly.
Good to know. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about some lighter news. What's going on in the community? Any interesting events or happenings planned?
Well, there's actually a really festive event happening this weekend in Tórshavn.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It's the annual Christmas market.
Nice.
It's a beloved tradition that brings together locals and visitors alike to celebrate the spirit of the season.
Yeah, I love a good Christmas market.
Yeah.
What can people expect to see there this year?
Well, attendees can expect a variety of stalls selling handcrafted gifts and local delicacies as well as holiday decorations.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And there will also be live music performances and traditional dance displays.
Okay.
And of course, plenty of seasonal treats.
Of course. It sounds like the perfect way to get into the holiday spirit.
Definitely. Now, for those looking for a bit more adventure, there's also an upcoming trail running race.
Oh, wow. A trail running race in the Faroe Islands.
Yes, it takes runners through some of the most stunning landscapes in the Faroe Islands.
Okay, now that sounds like a challenge.
It definitely is, but it's also incredibly rewarding. You get to see these breathtaking views along the way.
Wow, I bet. Is it only for experienced runners?
Not at all. The race actually offers different distances and difficulty levels, so it caters to a wide range of participants from beginners to those more seasoned trail runners.
Oh, that's great. So anyone can participate.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, are there any other events or news items worth mentioning?
There's an art exhibition opening soon at a gallery in Tórshavn that might be of interest.
Oh, nice.
Tell me more.
It features the works of renowned Faroese photographer Hannah Smith.
Okay. And what's special about her work?
Well, her photography is really celebrated for capturing the raw beauty and dramatic landscapes of the islands. Yeah. I can only imagine the Faroe Islands are a photographer's dream.
They really are. And Smith is especially known for capturing the interplay of light and shadow and the elements. Her photos really convey the raw power and ethereal beauty of the Faroe Islands.
Sounds beautiful. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Faroe Islands news for this week.
It does.
It's been really fascinating exploring all these different facets of life in the Faroe Islands.
It has. From the political landscape to industry updates to community events and cultural happenings, there's always something going on.
There is, and who knows what stories and developments the next week will bring.
Exactly. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious about the world around you. There's always something new to discover.
That's right. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you back here next time for another deep dive into the Faroe Islands news.